had a child and your child was missing, wouldn't you want somebody to come and tell you about where your child is at?
This is the story of Jasmine Dunbar, a young 21-year-old mother. A horrific day comes, and how lives are changed. Let's see in detail. Do like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel. A man and a woman passed by a quiet stretch of the highway near Camelback Road. Something caught their eye. A car seat, abandoned at the side of the road, sat there like a grim reminder of something wrong. The couple stopped the car, unsure of what they were seeing. They got out and approached the seat cautiously. Inside, a 7-month-old baby lay sleeping, completely unaware of the nightmare unfolding around her. The couple's immediate reaction was panic. There were no signs of the baby's mother, just a scattered collection of items beside the child. A diaper bag, a backpack, and something far more troubling, a driver's license. The name on the ID was Jasmine Dunbar. As the couple hurriedly called 911, they tried to comfort the baby, their hands shaking with fear. The police were quick to arrive, but as they surveyed the scene, they found even more unsettling clues. Among the personal items, they discovered a few other pieces that pointed to something darker: a wallet, a pair of shoes, and a single item that raised more questions than it answered. The baby's mother was nowhere to be found. Police combed through the area, searching for any sign of Jasmine, but all they could find were the clues she left behind. The baby's cries filled the air as the officers began their investigation, piecing together the tragedy that had just unfolded. Then the breakthrough came. A quick inquiry into Jasmine's whereabouts led them to a chilling discovery. She had been with her ex-boyfriend, Antwaun Ware, heading to a local clinic to take a paternity test. Why had she been with him, alone, on this fateful evening? Was it possible that something had gone wrong? With this new lead, police began retracing Ware's steps. They quickly learned that the two had been seen together earlier that evening, but things had taken a dark turn. Ware was nowhere to be found, and the search for him intensified. As the hours passed, the police received another horrifying report. Just a few miles from where the baby was found, they discovered a body, burned beyond recognition. The charred remains were identified as Jasmine Dunbar. The search for answers had just begun, but the chilling reality was that her ex-boyfriend, Antwaun Ware, might have been the last person to see her alive.
Yeah, Jasmine was last seen leaving her apartment here with her 7-month-old baby and her ex. Now, court records say they were on their way to get a paternity test done. And from there, the details get very gruesome, and Jasmine's mom is trying to hold it together.
Honest to God, I thought I would die before all of my kids. I never thought I would feel this, ever.
Tanya Smith is shattered. She and her daughter Jasmine had just begun to enjoy an even closer bond when Jasmine gave birth to a daughter of her own.
How had a simple paternity test led to such a horrific crime? And what had happened during that drive to turn everything so horribly wrong? The questions loomed large, and the truth was just beginning to surface. As the investigation into Jasmine Dunbar's murder deepened, the police received an unexpected confession. Antwaun Ware, the prime suspect, was finally in custody. His admission, however, sent shockwaves through the community, revealing horrifying details about the crime that no one could have imagined. Ware's arrest wasn't clean. He had been hiding, trying to avoid the inevitable, but the evidence against him was undeniable. When the officers confronted him, his confession was chilling. He admitted to a violent altercation with Jasmine while they were on their way to the paternity test, a drive that should have been routine but quickly escalated into something much darker. In his first statement, Ware claimed that their argument had turned physical. He confessed to hitting Jasmine, punching her repeatedly during their ride. But as the police pressed him for more details, his story seemed to unravel. His version of the events grew more and more confused. At one point, he claimed he had left Jasmine alive in a field, but his panicked actions after that painted a different picture entirely. Ware said he had dropped the baby off near the road, hoping someone would find the child. He panicked after seeing the police near the spot where the baby had been abandoned, and in a desperate attempt to cover his tracks, he did what no one could have expected. Instead of simply walking away, Ware drove back to the field where he had left Jasmine. But the story wasn't over yet. When the police retraced his steps, they uncovered the full horror. Not only had he abandoned Jasmine, but he had also set her body on fire. He didn't just leave her to die. He deliberately poured gasoline on her and set her alight, as though trying to erase all evidence of his crime. The charred remains found days later were proof of this gruesome act. It was clear now that Ware didn't just want to kill Jasmine. He wanted to make sure she was forgotten.
Sir, you are here on a new case out of Superior Court. The counts are 1 count of murder in the first degree, a Class 1 felony, 1 count of kidnapping, a Class 2 felony, 1 count of child or vulnerable adult abuse, a Class 2 felony, and 1 count of abandoning or concealing dead body parts, a Class 5 felony.
The chilling details didn't end there. As the investigation unfolded, more of Ware's confession was revealed. He admitted something that made the case even more terrifying. He had watched as Jasmine burned. He didn't flee the scene in guilt or regret. Instead, he watched as the flames consumed her, his cold indifference sending shockwaves through everyone involved. Why had he done it? What had driven him to commit such a brutal, heartless act? Was it just anger over the paternity test? Or was there something deeper, something more sinister at play? The police could only speculate, but the truth seemed as elusive as ever. As shocking as his confession was, it only raised more questions than it answered. What drove him to this point? Was the life he had with Jasmine and the baby truly enough to shatter his mind so completely? The investigation was far from over, and each new piece of information only seemed to deepen the mystery. But one thing was clear. The murder of Jasmine Dunbar was no ordinary crime. It was cold-blooded and calculated, and the truth behind it was more twisted than anyone could have imagined. As the story continued to unfold, the community struggled to come to terms with what had happened. The loss of Jasmine, a young mother, was tragic enough, but the details of her death, the brutal beating, the abandonment, and the cold-blooded act of setting her body on fire, left a dark shadow over everything. The questions lingered. Why did he do it? What pushed him to such an extreme? The investigation wasn't over, but for now, all anyone could do was try to make sense of a tragedy that seemed impossible to understand. In the days following Jasmine Dunbar's brutal death, her family struggled to come to terms with the incomprehensible loss. Jasmine had been a young mother, full of hope and promise, and now she was gone. The news of her violent murder rocked her family to the core. The image of her 7-month-old baby, found abandoned on the side of the road, was burned into their minds. Jasmine's mother, in particular, was devastated. Not only had she lost her daughter, but she also had to face the reality that the baby she had hoped to help raise was now gone from her. The pain was unbearable, but amid the sorrow, there was still a glimmer of hope. The baby had survived, and she was now in the care of family members.
I can't get it in my brain. I didn't cry so much today. I can't get it in. The reason. What was the reason?
The young mother loved by anyone who crossed paths with her, a ray of light, someone her mother says could make anyone smile.
He took away life. He took away love. He snatched it like it belonged to him.
Now, heartbreak.
Jasmine meant the world to me. She was my daughter. She was beautiful. She was smart. She was funny, like goofy. I'm telling you, she's goofy. She was goofy.
But the road ahead for the baby was far from easy. Dunbar's family was already struggling financially, and now they were left to pick up the pieces of a broken family. A GoFundMe campaign was set up to help support the baby's future, covering funeral expenses for Jasmine and the care of the child. The kindness of strangers brought some comfort, but the emotional toll on the family was overwhelming. As the legal process unfolded, there was a bittersweet sense of closure. Antwaun Ware, the man responsible for Jasmine's murder, pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and felony child endangerment. The court sentenced him to life in prison, a bitter conclusion that didn't come close to undoing the damage he had caused. For the family, Ware's life sentence was a cold and hollow victory. It was justice, yes, but it couldn't bring Jasmine back. It couldn't undo the terror and heartbreak that had shattered their lives. They were left to face a world without her, and nothing could replace the hole her death had left behind.
That was my baby. She's the youngest of all of us. We just got our apartment and we were gonna have her move in.
Those plans taking a tragic turn.
The baby, now in the care of her family, was a living reminder of the tragic events. Despite the trauma she had endured, she was safe. But the true cost of the crime was becoming clear. The emotional scars left on the family were deep, and healing seemed a distant hope. While the community rallied around them, offering support and love, the wounds ran deeper than anyone could see. Jasmine's memory lived on, but the pain of losing her, and the thought of how her life had been taken so violently, would haunt her family forever. And even though the case was officially closed with Ware's conviction, new questions began to emerge. What exactly had happened in the moments leading up to Jasmine's murder? Was there more to Ware's actions than just a simple paternity dispute? The case might have been over, but the echoes of the tragedy refused to fade, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Share your views on Jasmine Dunbar's horrific crime story in the comments section.